This is a movie poster I created for this class in order to teach you some very useful, practical compositing technique. Now in this tutorial, we're going to attempt to recreate this poster. The poster is fairly involved because I wanted to cover a lot of different techniques. And as such, it makes it for a rather long tutorial. So I've divided the tutorial into different videos, into different sections, so that if you want to, you can go back and review just a specific section, specific technique or tools, without having to go through the entire video. All right, let's create a new document, 13.5 by 20 at 150 pixels per square inch, RGB. Go ahead and click Create. The first thing we're going to do is create our background. So let's start by bringing Sky 1 in. So I'll click on Sky 1 with my Move tool. I'll just click in the middle of the image, drag up to my new document, bring it in, and place the sun in the center of the document. I'm going to use this image twice, so I'm just going to flip it to help fill up the background. So Command J will duplicate the layer, Command T, that's my free transform tool. I'll click in the middle and flip horizontal, move it over so that the suns are basically on top of each other. So we get kind of a Rorschach ink test looking thing here, but there's going to be a lot of elements on top of it, so hopefully it won't be terribly obvious that we flipped the image. Okay, let's bring in Sky 2. I'm going to bring it in the same way, drag it down in and make sure it's at the bottom of our sky stack. Let's rename these first thing. I'll name this one Sky 1. This one will be Sky 1 Copy, and this will be Sky 2. Now let's move Sky 2 into position so the sun will go behind the other suns, and this is just so we can extend the sky a little bit. All right, now we have to get rid of these hard edges, so I'm going to click on Sky 1 Copy and add a layer mask. Hit B for brushes. Make sure that my foreground color is black, so remember you can press D to get to pure black and white, and then press X to toggle foreground to background. And then I have my airbrush effect on, and I have flow at, I'm going to put the flow at about 80%. And in kind of an irregular manner, I'm going to hide this edge. I'm doing it this way to make it a little bit more organic, so it feels hopefully a little more natural and it'll blend in. Let's take a look at the mask itself by pressing Option. We want to make sure that there are no hard edges showing along here, so make sure this is really opaque along the edge. Now we have to do the same thing for Sky 1, but we really only need to do it across the bottom, so I'll add a mask and paint across the bottom. Look at it. Okay. I might want to get rid of this dark area by moving this layer up slightly. And we can adjust it more as we proceed if we need to. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and save our document. So I'll do a Save As. I'm going to call this Final Challenge. And I'll save it to my desktop. Okay, I'd like you to open up city.tiff, and let's go ahead and bring this into our Final Challenge poster. It will go on top, and it's a little bit big, so let's scale it down about 70%. So I'm going to come up here and highlight either the width or the height, type in 70, and it should scale it proportionally. Hit Return, or the check mark, to perform the transformation. Now we need to get rid of this white sky. So because it is almost completely white, this is one of the rare cases where we can actually use the magic wand, or we can use select color range. So let's come in here Under Select, Color Range, sample the white. This gives us a preview of what it's going to look like. Now fuzziness will extend the selection area. So we do not want to take out the windows ideally, but we would like to get down into this area here. So I'm going to say probably around there. Mine's at about 95. I'll say OK. Now I want the sky to be hidden and the buildings to be revealed. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and add a layer mask. I'm going to move it up a little bit so that we have sky behind it. And I've got to decide where I want the buildings to go, probably in there, which means, so I'm thinking the sun should come right between these buildings. I think that would work pretty well. It means I've got to get rid of this chunk in here. So I think I'll just use the magic wand for that one. Come over here, grab the magic wand, select this white area, come in here on my mask, fill it with black. Let's zoom in and see if we got everything. Nope, we need this little area down here. Put that one with black as well. Okay, now what we can see are some red lines here along the edge, and the edge looks very hard. It could be softer. I did take out some of the windows here, but it looks to me like it's a reflection of the sky, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. But we do need to clean up this edge a little bit. So the easiest way to do that is to double click on the layer mask and open up the Select and Mask feature. I'm going to increase the feather, shift the edge, moving this to the left, increase contrast. So we're just going to play these back and forth until we get a nice edge. That looks pretty good. Zoom out, press Command 0, and click OK. Now let's look at the mask itself. Option, click on the mask. I don't want to have areas like this showing because this could possibly create a row of pixels along the top, which I don't like. So just to be safe, and I think best practices, we'll just select this whole area and fill it with black. And same thing with the bottom here. I'll fill this all with black. Now let's look at our image. Option click to get back to the image. Now we've got some issues here with this just showing the top of this building, which I don't like. And this one looks a little weird the way it got cut off. So I'm just going to take my lasso and go around this building here, the top of this building, and fill this with black. We'll just get rid of that building altogether. Okay. This looks a little weird over here because of the way this got cut off. So I'm going to shift click on the mask, and I think I'll take my pen tool and just pen around this one area of the building. Hopefully it's going to look like that's the top of the building. So when I come back in here, I have to bring that down a little bit farther, make it into a selection, and then fill it with white to reveal that building. Okay, I think that looks more natural, more believable. Okay, I don't want the city to be so sharp. It needs to fade into the background. So first we're going to convert city for a smart filter, and then we're going to add a little bit of a blur. Now by using smart filters, we can come back and modify the blur at any time. If we decide we need more or less, we can come back in here and fix it. Totally non-destructive. So I'll say OK for that. Now let's zoom out. Now let's add a solid fill layer to the bottom here. So I'm going down to the bottom of my stack. I'll click on background and then add a new solid color. I'm going to sample the bottom of my city image and then say OK. Now I want the bottom of city to blend into this background and not have any kind of a hard edge there. So I'll go up to city, add a layer mask, And then I'll use my gradient tool, make sure I'm on linear, foreground to transparent, and make my foreground black. And then click just above. I'll isolate this for a second. I want to click just above this edge because I want to make sure that edge disappears. So I'll click here and pull up a little bit just to give it a nice soft edge that'll help it blend into the background. Now, to help the sky and the city feel like they're in the same environment, we're going to add a solid fill overlay on top of the city. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and add another solid. This one will be colorize. I'll call it colorize city. And use the previous layer as a clipping mask and click say OK. Sample a color from the sky, one of the gold orange colors from the sky. Say OK. And then change the blend mode to say multiply. You could try some others to see, like overlay also works nice and it's a brighter effect. I think I'll go with color. Now let's add a flare as if the sun is peeking through between these two buildings. So I'll add a new layer and I'll call it sun flare. I do not need to use the previous layer as a clipping mask. I'll say OK. I do want my foreground color to be white. I'm going to work with my gradient tool, radial gradient, foreground transparent. I'm going to click right where the sun would be, click and drag, and then we get this this burst. Maybe I'll change the blend mode to screen and lower the opacity just a little bit so it feels a little bit more natural.